Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you know you have the exact right answer, but you just can't seem to get the words out?
Usually when we talk about knowing a second language, there's this expectation of precise data retrieval. It's almost like we view the human brain as a computer. You learn the vocabulary, you study the grammar rules, you input the prompt, and boom, out comes a perfectly formed English sentence.
Right, yeah, it's treated as a pure knowledge transfer, like a binary state. You have the data, therefore you should be able to transmit the data flawlessly.
Exactly.
Welcome to Talk English Daily, by the way. I'm your host, Alex.
And I'm Jamie. This is episode 6, how to sound more confident when you speak English, even when you are nervous.
And, it's so comforting to think of language that way, right?
Yeah.
We like things to be categorical. You know the word, or you don't.
We really do. But then you step into this highly relatable, deeply painful scenario. You're on a high-stakes video call.
Oh, yeah. The worst.
Right. Maybe it's an international team, or maybe it's a big meeting with a new client. You know exactly what you want to say. The ideas are solid. You've prepared your notes.
You're totally ready.
But the moment you unmute your microphone and start speaking, it's like someone unplugs the machine. Your voice shrinks. You start leaning on filler words like your life depends on it.
Just a complete spiral.
Exactly. You lose your train of thought halfway through a sentence. And then the absolute worst happens. The client leans in, squints at the camera, and says, "Sorry, could you repeat that?"
Oh, that is just painful to even think about. But it's so common.
It is. That's the absolute definition of a cognitive freeze. And when that freeze happens, the natural reaction for someone speaking a second language is to blame their language skill.
Right. They think, I need to study more grammar. I just don't know enough English.
Exactly. Because in that terrifying moment, you feel like your English failed you. But today, we're taking a deep dive into an incredibly comprehensive guide designed specifically for English learners.
And it argues something completely different, doesn't it?
It really does. It argues that what failed you wasn't your English at all, it was your confidence.
So our mission today is to completely deconstruct the mechanics of confidence. We want to prove to you that confidence is a learnable, practicable skill. It's a set of habits.
It's not some magical personality trait that you're just born with.
Which is such a liberating concept. But hey, really quick, before we jump into how to actually fix this freeze, just a fast reminder.
Yeah, if you're enjoying our deep dives and want to keep improving your English with us every single day, make sure you hit that subscribe button on your podcast app.
It really helps us out, and it makes sure you never miss a lesson. Okay, let's jump right in. So to fix this freeze, where do we actually start?
Well, we actually have to look outside of vocabulary and grammar entirely. We have to start with the physical signals our bodies send before we even open our mouths.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're starting with the physical body. Why? I spend hours a week studying verb conjugations. Are you telling me that the way I'm sitting actually changes how my English sounds?
Dramatically. We start with the physical body because physiology completely dictates vocal quality.
Wow, really?
Yeah. You could have crafted the most brilliant, grammatically flawless sentence in the world, but it'll sound uncertain and weak if it's delivered through a constricted airway.
That makes a lot of sense.
There's a fascinating concept in our source material. It highlights just how little the actual words matter when it comes to projecting authority. Let's look at the famous 7% rule.
The 7% rule. Break that down for us.
This comes from research in the 1960s. They found that when we're communicating feelings or attitudes, only 7% of the message's impact comes from the actual words we use.
Wait, just 7%? That's wild. We spend years in language classes focusing entirely on that 7%. So where is the rest of the impact coming from?
The remaining 93% is entirely nonverbal. About 38% is vocal tone. So that's the pacing, the pitch, the resonance of your voice.
Okay, and the rest?
And 55% is body language. Now, this specifically applies when an audience is assessing your credibility or confidence.
So if I'm trying to convince a room full of people that my project timeline is realistic, they're mostly reading my tone and my body.
Exactly. So if you're terrified, your body's closed off, and your voice is shaking, it doesn't matter if your grammar is perfect. The listener just hears nervousness.
But, that's actually fantastic news for you as a language learner.
It's huge news. It means confidence signals are completely separate from grammatical perfection. You can make a mistake with a verb tense, but if your tone is resonant and your posture is open, you still sound credible.
So what does this all mean in practice? Let's talk about the physical foundation that the guide outlines. We'll start with posture. Let's spell that word. P-O-S-T-U-R-E. Posture.
Great word. Posture is how you hold your body.
So how exactly does hunching over my laptop, which we all do on video calls, ruin my English?
It comes down to the mechanics of your diaphragm and your lungs. Let's spell diaphragm, just because it's a tricky one. D-I-A-P-H-R-A-G-M. It's the muscle that controls your breathing.
Right. So when you're nervous, what does your body naturally want to do?
I mean, you want to hide. You want to shrink down and make yourself as small as possible.
Exactly. It's a deep evolutionary response. We round our shoulders forward to protect ourselves.
But when you round your shoulders, you're literally giving your lungs less physical space to expand. Your diaphragm can't fully work when you're hunched over.
I'm trying this right now. If I hunch forward, I can't take a deep breath. My breathing becomes really shallow.
Yes. You start breathing just from the top of your chest, and sound is just vibrating air. If you don't have strong air pressure pushing from your diaphragm, your vocal cords can't produce a rich sound.
So your voice just gets thin and quiet.
It does. It might even shake. You literally sound like a smaller, more frightened version of yourself.
Wow. So simply by sitting up straight, with my shoulders back, I'm mechanically changing my instrument.
You're giving your diaphragm room to work. You don't have to fake a deep radio voice. You just have to give your body the posture required to produce its natural sound.
Okay, so posture is step one. Step two, according to our sources, is deliberate breathing. And the guide says this isn't just about oxygen. It's about resetting the nervous system. How does a breath do that?
When we feel anxious, our fight or flight response kicks in,
Yeah.
our heart rate increases, and your breathing becomes really fast and shallow.
You get ready to run away.
Exactly. To override this alarm system, the sources suggest a specific habit. Take one slow, deliberate breath before speaking and breathe fully at natural sentence breaks, like full stops.
Just one slow breath before unmuting on Zoom. Does one breath really make a difference?
It sounds too simple, but the secret is in the exhale. When you exhale slowly, you stimulate the vagus nerve. Let's spell that. V-A-G-U-S.
The vagus nerve.
Yeah, it sends a signal to your brain to activate the rest and digest system. This slows your heart rate down so that one deliberate breath actually changes your state of panic into a state of calm.
And breathing at full stops prevents that terrible feeling of running out of air at the end of a long sentence.
Exactly. Nervous speakers often try to get all their words out on one single breath because they want to finish speaking as quickly as possible.
They just want the attention off of them.
Right. By forcing yourself to pause and breathe at full stops, you're constantly resetting that panic before it spikes again.
Which leads us perfectly into the next physical habit. The guide calls it the power pause.
Oh, this one is so important.
We're talking about deliberate silence. The sources contrast filler words, words like with intentional silence. Why do we rely on fillers so much?
In any social interaction, if you're speaking English and you suddenly stop talking mid-thought, your immediate fear is that the listener thinks you don't know the vocabulary.
Right. Or they think you're done and they'll just interrupt you.
Yes. We feel this intense pressure to fill the dead air with just to signal, hey, my brain is working, please don't cut me off.
So the UK is basically an audible loading bar.
That's a brilliant way to put it. But if you're constantly buffering, you project a lack of clarity. The power pause is about replacing that with complete silence. Let's spell pause. P-A-U-S-E, pause.
Let me give an example of how this sounds. First, with fillers. I think we should maybe look at the new budget numbers.
That sounds so uncertain.
Right. Now, with a power pause, I think we should look at the new budget numbers.
It's so much stronger.
It's like musical rests in sheet music. The silence frames the ideas. It gives the listener's brain time to digest what you just said.
Exactly. But people are so afraid that sudden silence makes them look like they forgot their point.
I mean, it is a scary feeling. Doesn't the client just stare at you thinking your internet dropped?
That's why it's not just about the absence of sound. It's about your physical presence during the pause. If you stop speaking and your eyes dart around and you look terrified, yes, you look lost.
The classic deer in the headlights look.
But if you pause, maintain steady eye contact, keep your posture open, and look relaxed in that silence, you look measured. You look incredibly in control.
You show them the silence doesn't scare you. Okay, moving to the final physical habits, pace and projection. The text says, nervous speakers rush.
Always. Get me out of this stressful situation as fast as possible.
And the fix is to slow down your speaking pace by 20%. But slowing down feels agonizingly slow to the speaker, even though it sounds normal to the listener. Why is our internal timing so broken?
Because of adrenaline. Your heart is racing, so your perception of time actually dilates. 3 seconds of silence feels like 30 seconds. Speaking at a normal pace feels like slow motion to you.
So you have to actively fight your own perception of time. You have to force yourself to speak uncomfortably slow.
Yes, and rushing is the enemy of clarity. When you rush, your physical articulation gets sloppy. Your accent might become harder to understand because you aren't fully forming the sounds.
Plus, the mental load of translating on the fly causes you to stumble. Slowing down gives your brain processing time.
Precisely. And then there's projection. Projection is not shouting, it's speaking from the chest to fill the space.
What's the mechanical difference between shouting and projecting?
Shouting comes from the throat, it's strained. Projection comes from the diaphragm, it's resonant. Projecting means having the conviction to let your voice reach the back of the room with sustained energy.
Okay, so we've built the physical foundation: posture, breathing, pausing, pacing, and projection. But now we have to actually choose our words. The guide calls this re-engineering language habits.
This is critical because you can have the best posture in the world, but completely ruin it if the very first words out of your mouth are an apology.
Yes. Habit number 1 is stop over-apologizing. Let's spell apology. A-P-O-L-O-G-Y. An apology is saying sorry. The classic example is, sorry, my English is not very good.
Almost every learner uses this phrase as a shield. It's intended to be humble, but it actually primes the listener to expect low quality.
How does that priming work?
When you tell someone, my English is bad, you hand them a lens to view your presentation. Suddenly, every tiny grammatical slip becomes hard evidence proving your statement. You framed yourself as unreliable.
So what's the confident alternative? Because you can't just pretend you're a native speaker if you aren't.
The guide offers a brilliant pivot. Instead of an apology, you make a collaborative offer. You say, please stop me if anything is not clear.
Oh, I love that. Please stop me if anything is not clear. It changes the dynamic completely.
It does. It's authoritative, yet welcoming. It says, I'm managing this communication. Let's work together.
Okay, habit number 2. Stop hedge stacking. What is a hedge? Let's spell it first. H-E-D-G-E. Hedge.
A hedge is a word used to lessen the impact of a sentence. Words like think, maybe, perhaps, possibly, sort of.
Now, using one hedge shows humility. But that problem is hedge stacking, layering multiple uncertainty words. The example given is, I think maybe it could perhaps be a good idea.
You're verbally backing away from your own idea. You're diluting your message before it even reaches the listener.
I picture hedge stacking like wrapping a fragile gift in 5 layers of thick bubble wrap. By the time you hand it over, they can't even see the gift. The message is completely lost.
That's a perfect visualization. The fix is simple. Choose one hedge and commit to it.
So instead of the bubble wrap, you just say, I think this is a strong approach, or this could be a good direction.
Yeah.
Just one mitigating word.
Exactly. Which brings us to the third habit, strong openers and ownership. The text states that the first 3 words of a sentence carry enormous psychological weight.
Why the first 3?
They set the trajectory. If your first 3 words are, maybe, the listener's brain is already tuning out. But if you use openers like, from my perspective, or the key point here is you establish immediate authority.
But how does a language learner walk the tightrope between owning their ideas and not sounding arrogant?
We have to distinguish between confidence and arrogance. Arrogance is a refusal to listen. Confidence is simply clarity of expression. Saying, from my perspective, we should focus on these metrics isn't arrogant, it's just clear.
It's localized to your perspective. And part of projecting confident ownership is how you handle your own mistakes. The text talks about recovery phrases.
This might be the single most valuable linguistic tool for a learner to memorize. You will lose your words. It happens to native speakers all the time.
I forget words in my native language daily. I'll just completely blank on the simplest word.
Right. But a confident speaker calmly narrates the fix to the audience. They use phrases like, let me start that again, or let me take a moment to find the right words.
Let me give an example. We need to, sorry, what's the word? That's the panic spiral.
Exactly.
Now the recovery phrase. We need to, let me take a moment to find the right word. We need to restructure the timeline.
It's so much more professional. It buys you time and shows intense composure. Acknowledging the mistake calmly actually builds trust.
Okay, so we fixed the body and the language. But here's where the guide goes deep. If the voice inside your head is screaming, your accent is terrible, you're about to fail, those habits will crumble.
The internal environment always dictates the external performance, which is why the next focus is mindset shifts.
Let's dive into those. The first one is redefining confidence. The text states that confidence is not the absence of nerves, nor is it perfect English.
It's simply the willingness to communicate through the nerves rather than waiting for them to vanish. So many people think, once I'm completely fluent and I never feel nervous, then I'll speak up.
But that day never comes.
And it never comes. Even people who give speeches for a living feel adrenaline. Confidence in a second language is accepting that you will feel nervous, you will make a mistake, but deciding to share your idea anyway.
Which leads to the second mindset shift. The listener is an ally. Let's spell ally. A-L-L-Y. An ally is a friend or supporter.
Nervous speakers assume the listener is a harsh judge waiting for a mistake. It's the spotlight effect. We think everyone is paying attention to our flaws.
But listeners are actually highly egocentric. They're mostly thinking about their own issues. And pragmatically, they just want the communication to work.
Exactly. When you listen to someone speak your native language with a heavy accent, are you judging their prepositions?
No. I'm just trying to understand the idea. I'm rooting for them. I want them to succeed.
Human communication is inherently cooperative. The listener is a collaborator trying to build a bridge with you. If you shift your internal monologue to, they want me to succeed, the pressure drops immensely.
Okay, but let's talk about the physical reality of that pressure. The third mindset shift is nervousness versus excitement. The text points out that the physical sensations of nervousness, fast heartbeat, sweaty palms, are biologically identical to excitement.
The only difference is the cognitive label we apply to those sensations. Relabeling the feeling as excitement improves performance. Let's spell excitement. E-X-C-I-T-E-M-E-N-T.
Excitement. Is it really as simple as saying, I'm excited when your hands are shaking? It sounds like a cheap self-help gimmick.
It sounds like it, but it's based on robust psychological research called anxious reappraisal. When your heart pounds, if you tell yourself, I'm panicking, your brain goes into a self-protective threat state. It shuts down the creative, language-generating parts of your brain.
Which causes the cognitive freeze.
Exactly. But excitement is also a high arousal state. Moving from anxiety to excitement isn't a change in energy level, it's a change in direction. When you say out loud, I am excited, you shift into a forward-moving state focused on the goal.
So you aren't fighting the adrenaline, you're just changing the label on the jar.
Yeah.
That's incredible, and it ties perfectly into the final mindset shift, the extraordinary reality.
Communicating complex ideas in a non-native language is an extraordinary feat of grammar, vocabulary, and cultural nuance.
The cognitive load required to hold a complex idea, translate it, format it, and read the room.
It's staggering.
It's like playing three-dimensional chess while juggling.
It's an immense intellectual achievement. Changing your mindset means recognizing that bilingualism is a superpower. It's something to stand tall for, not apologize for.
That is the internal monologue we want playing. Okay, so we have the body, the language, and the mind. To cement all these shifts, the source material explores a specific set of vocabulary words. The guide calls this the lexicon of poise.
By defining these specific words, we're defining the very behavioral targets we're aiming for.
Let's run through them. The first word is deliberate. Let's spell it D-E-L-I-B-E-R-A-T-E. Deliberate. The definition is done with intention and full control.
This reframes slowness from a weakness into a superpower. Every pause is chosen. Every breath is timed. It's the opposite of panicked rushing.
I'll give an example sentence. She spoke in a slow, deliberate manner. Next is conviction. C-O-N-V-I-C-T-I-O-N. Conviction. The genuine belief that what you are saying is true and worth saying.
Conviction is the antidote to hedge stacking. It allows you to say, this is the right approach, without wrapping it in bubble wrap.
Example sentence. He presented his ideas with strong conviction. Third on the list is projection. P-R-O-J-E-C-T-I-O-N. Projection. Filling the space with your voice without straining.
Fading out at the end of sentences is a classic tell of a nervous speaker. Projection is driving the energy all the way to the period at the end of the sentence.
Example sentence. Good vocal projection ensures everyone in the room hears you. Fourth is filler. F-I-L-L-E-R. Filler. Sounds that replace pauses, like and
The antidote is replacing the sound with intentional silence, getting comfortable with the void.
Example sentence. Try to eliminate filler words from your presentation. And finally, the fifth word, which ties it all together. Poise. Let's spell it carefully. P-O-I-S-E. Poise. Graceful composure under pressure.
Poise is not about flawless execution. It's about how you handle the inevitable imperfections. If you completely forget a word and you smile, take a deliberate breath and say, let me reset, you demonstrate true poise.
Example sentence. She handled the difficult questions with incredible poise. Looking at these 5 words, deliberate, conviction, projection, filler, poise, they all mean choosing intentionality over reactivity.
Exactly. Which of these do you think is the hardest to master?
Oh, definitely poise, because poise is the ultimate integration of all the others.
Yeah.
You can't fake it.
And poise compounds over time. Every time you choose to speak through a mistake instead of apologizing, you're making a tiny deposit into your confidence bank account.
Okay, this is all incredible theory, but we need to know what this looks like in the wild. The guide transitions us to a practical breakdown of a real-world scenario.
Let's see the toolkit in action.
Here is the scenario. A team member is pushing back on a project timeline during a video call. You're disagreeing with a manager in a second language, on camera. Inherently stressful.
It's the ultimate test. Let's look at the sequence of a confident speaker.
Step 1. The speaker takes one deliberate breath before unmuting their microphone.
We know the biology now. The exhalation stimulates the vagus nerve, the heart rate drops, they're shifting from a threat state to an intentional state.
Step 2. Avoiding apologies. They don't start with, sorry, I know my English isn't great, but...
They refuse to prime the audience with incompetence. Their input is valuable.
Step 3. Using a clear opener. The phrase used is, from my perspective.
This establishes immediate ownership without triggering defensiveness. It's a valid data point from their specific vantage point.
Step 4. Framing the pushback collaboratively. They explicitly say they're bringing this up because they want to, quote, set this project up for success.
Brilliant strategy. You aren't fighting the manager. You're standing shoulder to shoulder with them, looking at the problem together.
And the final step, the confident recovery phrase. The speaker presents their argument and then says, I am happy to be wrong about this, but I think we have a capacity issue.
The text dissects this specific phrase as a prime example of intellectual openness that projects massive authority.
I struggle with this one. If I'm arguing a point, why on earth would I immediately say, I'm happy to be wrong? Doesn't that undermine my argument?
It depends entirely on physical delivery. If you say it hunched over with a shaky voice, yes, it sounds weak, but with strong posture and steady eye contact, it projects supreme confidence. Because only someone deeply secure in their competence can publicly admit they might be wrong. It shows you're driven by the desire to find the best solution, not by a fragile ego.
Wow. It makes me think of dealing with severe turbulence on an airplane. When the plane starts shaking violently, the pilot comes on the intercom. You don't want the pilot to say, sorry, I'm not a very good pilot.
That causes panic.
But you also don't want them to arrogantly yell, I am a god of the sky, nothing can hurt us.
Both extremes inspire terror because they show a lack of grounded reality.
Right. You want the pilot to calmly narrate the reality. Folks, we're hitting some rough air. I'm adjusting our altitude. We'll be through it in 5 minutes. That calm, objective narration makes you trust them implicitly.
That's the perfect analogy for using phrases like, let me break this down, or I am happy to be wrong. It keeps you firmly in control. You are the pilot of your own communication.
So as we look back over this massive guide, what does this all mean for you, the listener?
The overarching synthesis is this. Confidence is not a static trait. It is a daily practice.
It's an action. It's a choice you make. By managing your physical space, like your posture and breath, you physically change your biological state.
By cleaning up your language habits, like dropping hedges and apologies, you change how others perceive you.
And by reframing your mindset, labeling adrenaline as excitement, you completely change how you experience pressure. You can communicate powerfully regardless of your grammar level.
The delivery mechanism is often more important than the linguistic data itself.
This brings us to a call to action. We want you to try just one of these techniques in your very next conversation. Pick the one that resonates most.
Maybe it's the power pause. The next time you feel the urge to say, just close your mouth. Let the silence hang for 2 full seconds. Notice how people lean in.
Or maybe it's dropping the apology. Next time you present, do not apologize for your English. Just take a deep breath and start. Notice how different it feels to inhabit that space of ownership.
That's life-changing.
To wrap up our deep dive today, I want to leave you with one final thought, and I'll let Jamie deliver it.
If we accept that credibility in communication is primarily driven by nonverbal signals, deliberate pacing, and a collaborative mindset, we arrive at a fascinating conclusion. Is it possible that native speakers who often rely entirely on their flawless grammar while ignoring their physical presence and speaking way too fast might actually be less effective communicators than a highly poised, deliberate language learner?
Wow.
It happens every day in international business. A native speaker who rushes and mumbles will lose the room long before a composed second language speaker who pauses, breathes, and connects. Because fluency is not the same as communication.
Fluency is not the same as communication. You have the key in your hand. The knowledge is there. Now, just take a breath, open your posture, and turn the lock. Till next time, keep diving deep.
Talk English Daily. Subscribe for new episodes.